Good morning, class.
Good morning.
What are the 3 ways to terrify an audience? Number 1.
Jump scare.
Number 2. And number 3. Which is hard enough to say if you're not an English speaker, let alone to pull off in a movie. But these guys are great. They've been making films on their camera phones, and at the end of this film, I'm going to share what they've been doing. But for now, buckle up, because we're going down to the David Fincher corridor to discover what these 3 tactics are and how you can use them to make horror films and suspense films. It's a beat in a movie which is designed to scare the merry hell out of the audience, which is exactly what happened when I screened the Lights Out short for my class of students here in China. The audience leaps out of their seats because we're not expecting to see the ghost. We've established the rule that the ghost only attacks you in the dark. Woman at the end, she thinks she's okay, she sees the lights are on, and then this thing is right there in her face. The short, I think, notched up 12 million views on YouTube before it became this fully fledged Hollywood hit. But I would actually argue that the first film is scarier because it's more realistic. It doesn't have Hollywood lighting. It looks very naturalistic. Jump scares, when used sparingly and strategically, can be a great way to terrify the audience.
Please, make yourself at home.
They've got to be really, really good, and if they're cheap, it looks cheesy. The second tactic that filmmakers use to terrify audiences is when they put characters in a situation of rising and ever-increasing danger. You put a character in a perilous situation, and then you crank up the tension even further, increasing the danger by increments. So a good example of this tactic being used is in A Quiet Place. The kids run away from the monster, and they fall into this grain silo only to drown. In this movie, if the monster can hear you, you're dead meat. It cuts to another scene, which is, oh, that's a bit spooky, we've lost the light. I don't know how long that whole sequence is. The middle of that movie, it's, oh look, my diffusion has decided to come loose, and it's a little bit spooky. I think this is why you always gotta have gaffer tape. Bit of the gaffer, slap it on. Right. Behave yourself. And the third scare tactic is the most advanced and arguably the most effective, and that's when you use dramatic irony. That's a fancy word for saying when the audience can see the characters in danger, but the character doesn't know that. It's like the old pantomime, look, he's behind you. And I think the best example of dramatic irony being used to terrify audiences and put them on the edge of the seats and keep them there is Act 3 of Silence of the Lambs. Clarice goes to the house of the killer, Buffalo Bill. We know he's the killer. And Jonathan Demme and Ted Talley, the screenwriter, they crank up the tension and they do not let go.
Are you close to catching somebody, you think?
Yes, we may be.
Demme puts in a shot of the gun on top of the stove.
Right. Here's that number.
That's a rising danger beat and a dramatic irony beat, because Clarice doesn't know about the gun, but we do.
Here's my phone.
Freeze! Put your hands over your head and turn around. Spread your legs. Spread your legs. Put your hands in the back. Thumbs up. Freeze!
Buffalo Bill makes a run for the basement. It's incredibly tense. We've been down there. We know how dangerous it is, what he does to women down there, and Clarice follows him down there. There's a jump scare here as she walks into a bathroom and sees a decomposing body in a bath. But it's nothing compared to the ongoing tension, the rising danger, and the dramatic irony which Demme and Talley push to the very end. And the sort of coup de grace really is when Buffalo Bill gets her in a room, she walks in there and he kills the lights. And then zzz, Buffalo Bill's got MVGs, he's got night vision goggles. We are looking at Clarice through his POV and she doesn't know about it. Buffalo Bill reaches out to touch her. And then you see the gun. All of this is dramatic irony, all of this is rising danger, and all of this is tip-top tension, which we should all be putting into our movies. In a film, it's not just about the visuals creating these scares. You can use music to create jump scares and, most importantly, to create dramatic irony. Take Jaws, for example, and John Williams' magnificent score. Whenever we hear that score, we know the characters are in danger, but sometimes they don't know. That's dramatic irony all the way. And conversely, I think there's one attack in there, which is the scariest of all, where there's no signal the monster is there. It's a big surprise. It's a jump scare.
Come on down and chump some of this shit.
So, 3 ways to terrify an audience: jump scares, rising danger, or dramatic irony. So my students have been learning to use their camera phones, not just for filming, but also for lighting. And here's a taster of what they've been up to. It's been an absolute blast. I've loved it here, discussing and learning about horror movies, but more than everything, making horror films.
多拍好看点啊！
好嘞。
I look forward to catching you in the next vid. Scriptfella out.
I said, what do you want? I can still hear that voice.